Welcome back to Conference USA Media Day, live from Dallas, Texas. Glad to have you with us today. And now we turn our attention again to the women. And joining us, my far right, Rick Insell, 9th year as head coach of Middle Tennessee State, making their appearance, of course, here in Conference USA. One of my favorite players when she played in the WNBA, one of the inaugural players, I might add, when she played in the WNBA, but she's still young, so don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Teresa Witherspoon, the head coach at Louisiana Tech. Also joining us, Mike Peterson. In his first year, he takes over the reins at North Texas. And finally, to all the way down the left, Matt Daniel from Marshall. Good to have you here, gentlemen, and lady. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Rick, we're going to start with you first. 9th year, 199 wins at the school, most in school history. One away from 200. Does it mean anything to you?
Sure, it means a lot, but you don't think about that. You never get into coaching and start worrying about how many games you're going to win. Listen, you want to win every game, but you don't look at the numbers.
What you do look at probably is players returning, 3 returning starters, but I think even more importantly, 9 letter winners coming in. Talk about your team just as a broad stroke coming into the season.
Well, we played a lot of young ladies last year, got a lot of minutes, and there were a lot of different combinations. We had several players last year. We felt like that we needed to get some time in, and it ended up at the end of the year we didn't play. We ended up being able to play 8 or 9 kids, but it's helped us going into this year. Already I can see some of the kids that didn't get as much playing time as maybe they thought they deserved. Already they've jumped into the head of the class and looking pretty good.
We always talk about the tradition of programs, and some of the young coaches are obviously trying to build tradition. Your tradition, 16 NCAA tournaments, 5 straight. You're picked to win the conference this year. How does that help in team chemistry and expectations, not from you, but within the locker room amongst the players?
Well, I think it's when our players walk in, they expect to win. And, I've kind of seen that culture the last, really I've been there 8 years, but Middle Tennessee has had a great program through Lewis Bivens and Larry Joe Inman and Stephanie Smith, and I was fortunate enough to come in on top of that and had some pretty good players that were left over that, they kind of had that same belief, that, hey, we're supposed to win. And then the kids that I'm recruiting are coming from great high school programs, and, it's one of the things we look at when we bring them on board. And not only can they play the game, but, what's their mental attitude about things. And we've been real fortunate we've got some of those young ladies.
I think for the former members or members who have been with Conference USA a while, they're going to get a treat when they play at Middle Tennessee. You averaged over 4,200 fans a game on your home court. You drew over 10,000 for a game against Austin Peay. Pretty impressive, I think, for a recruit and also for Conference USA to go into an arena like yours, and there's going to be a lot of noise.
Well, it's tough to play at Middle Tennessee. I'll just tell you, I think Mike and some of the other people that's been there tell you the same thing. We do have a good crowd support. One of the things that we recruit to is the fact that who wants to play in a gym that there's nobody there. And one of our goals is to get our attendance where it's 7,000 or 8,000 a game, and we feel like there in the state of Tennessee, the emphasis is placed on women's basketball. We're able to do that, and so we're kind of recruiting to that also.
Let's talk about a specific player, and the one that stands out, obviously, Ebony Rowe, the leading scorer, averaged about 19 points a game overall, over 20 in conference play, also averaged a double-double. Where can she go now? Because those numbers are pretty solid.
Well, she's a special young lady. You would think maybe that she would go rest on her laurels, so to speak, but I think that she's probably worked harder from April up until this point than I've seen her since she's been there. And I told one of the coaches the other day that could be dangerous because in the early practices she's doing things that she hadn't done before. She's not been an outside threat at all, and already she's knocking down threes, and I think what she saw there was, hey, if I'm going to have a chance maybe to go into the league, that I'm going to have to be able to knock down some shots there because she's an undersized post. She's not 6'1", but she's born with some things that you can't coach, how to go to the board, how to get the basketball at the right place at the right time, and just a special young lady.
Well, she ranked in the top 25 of NCAA statistics in 4 different categories, which is pretty impressive. We talk about the starters coming back, but you have to replace 2 of your top 3 scorers. That's about 30 points a game. Give me some names of people that are going to have to chip away at that 30 points.
Well, again, I feel like that we can get a little more production out of some of the young ladies. Lauren March didn't play a whole lot last year, and I think she's going to really come on board. Kiki Stewart did a good job for us. She's a senior also. We've got a young freshman that's come in, and she's kind of separated herself from everybody. Olivia Jones, I felt like she's one of the best recruits that I've got in a long time. And, there's 2 or 3 other young ladies that we feel can step up and do some things that maybe they haven't been asked to do up to this point. That's a question that everybody asks, who's going to fill these shoes, who's going to fill those shoes? And my answer is always someone to step up, and that's the way it is in most programs.
Your schedule, non-conference schedule, this is pretty impressive. Tennessee, Miami, Arkansas, and Kentucky to start the year. Now, you lost to Tennessee last year in overtime. That tough schedule, it's good news, bad news, isn't it?
Well, again, we recruit to that. We tell our young ladies that come in that we bring on board that we're going to play on a national platform. And not only you're going to play in a good conference, but our out-of-conference schedule, you're going to be able to play some good competition, going in and playing the Lady Vols, playing Kentucky, which has been an Elite 8 team the last 2 or 3 years, playing in front of those hostile crowds. You got to grow up quick, and I think that helps us when we get into the conference. And also, it helps with your RPI. Gives you a chance maybe if you win a game or 2 like that, then you're going to have a chance to get in that large bid. And there's not as much pressure on you going into the conference tournament, especially in the Sun Belt Conference. And one of the things that I hope in Conference USA that we can do is get 3 and 4 teams into the NCAA tournament. They've done that before. Why can't we do it now? And I think the way our coaches are doing, and everybody's scheduling up now, and I think that's going to be possible.
Coach, welcome to the conference. We'll be
Thank
getting
you.
back with you with a question for the entire group. Joining us now, the head coach at Louisiana Tech. She's in her 7th year. Played in the WNBA, was an incredible player at Louisiana Tech. Had a pretty good coach during those days, Teresa Withering. T, good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Okay, I want to talk about you first, though, before we get in the team. Your alma mater is Louisiana Tech. You won a national title there, obviously. How special is it for you to coach at the school that has such incredible tradition and history?
The answer will always be it's very special, but it's really different because this is a place where I learned to grow, my growth and development as a person, and my growth and development with Coach Sparmo, who I believe is the greatest as a player. The one thing that I truly appreciate about him is he's still in my corner. But it's always great when you leave a place and you venture out into your own life and do certain things with your life, and then your university calls. It's special because you left something that was never forgotten. And I think that's what makes it so special to go back to Louisiana Tech and play for a university and then being able to go back and coach there. It's just the best feeling that you could ever imagine.
Now, if you don't know the history, she was the WNBA player, Defensive Player of the Year. So obviously you like defense. How does that translate as far as being a coach now to the players?
Well, you want it to be a reflection. Defensively, we believe that's where we live. That's where wins occur. It's the way I've always played the game. It's what I believe in. We want to be a team of defensive stops, offensive runs. So defense, I believe, wins those championships. It sets you apart from most teams. It's the dirtiest part of the game. Who wants to be the dirtiest? Not to a degree of you playing dirty,
right.
But it's the dirtiest part of the game, and who wants to go through that grind every day? And we want players who want to do that.
Lenny Wilkins told me years ago that, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but he says a lot of times teams take on the personality of their coach. Does your team take on your personality, you think?
I would hope
because
so.
you had a special personality when you were on the court. You didn't back down from anyone.
Well, some things I hope they don't take on. Some things. But in that aspect, you would hope so. You would hope that who you are as a coach is a true reflection when your players are between those 4 lines playing.
You've got an entire new staff. So not only are you trying to get the chemistry with the players,
Yes.
getting that chemistry with the staff, how difficult is that?
It is so important. It is so important from the very beginning because when you have a new staff, it's important that you gain that chemistry early in order for your players to see it. It's important that they see a staff that's connected. There is no disconnect. There is no splintering. It's a staff that is connected for the betterment of the kids and putting them in positions to be successful. But it's just been the greatest thing to have Mikey Conham and Drew Miller, Ronnie Barney and Tamika Reed as a part of the staff. It's exciting. It's enthusiasm that has hit back into the arena, and those kids feel and see that.
Shooting, not one of the strong points of the team last year. You only shot as a team 38%, about 26% from three. How much have you challenged them to be better shooters and to go into the gym early mornings, take those extra shots?
Well, that's the key. It's the extra. It's not the time that you spend with us. It is the extra. And I'm just so thankful to the NCAA for giving us the opportunity to have hands-on, because that's the one thing that we're really focusing on. And then seeing who's true gym rats, who's going to come in and get it done and walk in and write up on the board how many shots you got for the day and what's your percentage. It's important that they do the extra.
Give me some names of people that are standing out. Obviously, you know, you have Whitney Frazier,
Yes.
all-WAC second team last year, but give me some names of people that we should all circle and say we got to watch this throughout the season.
Without a doubt, Whitney Frazier is going to be one of the major ones. Her game has truly matured. Her leadership, she wants to lead this team. There's a sense of refusal with her because of the past, and she wants to lead this team. She wants to leave her legacy. She wants to leave her mark. But when you take a look at one of our young players in Lulu Perry, who came in as one of the best in the state of Louisiana, her game is tremendously improved. And that's due to the work that she put in the summertime and the exit meetings that we had and asked her, and the things we asked of her, she went and got those things done. And with her coming in and being the scorer we need her to be, but most importantly, the complete basketball player defending some of the best. Then you take a look at one of our newcomers in Christacia Walter, just an amazing motor, amazing leader. She's going to be the point guard of this team, the head of this team, the conductor of this team. She's going to do some amazing things with what she can do. She's not just a shooter, she's a scorer, but being in the position that we're asking her to play, she's able to bring people along to make them better. And then with a freshman we have in Kwani Jackson, you would never know this is a freshman. She approaches the game as just the athlete. It doesn't matter. You know, she's not the athlete that says the best thing about my freshman year, I'm going to be a sophomore. Best thing after my sophomore year, I'm going to be a junior, and so forth, so on. She just approaches the game as I'm an athlete.
Final question. LSU Ole Miss on your non-conference schedule, but the one that stood out to me, Gary Blair at Texas A&M, former, obviously, Louisiana Tech ties also. That's probably going to be a pretty special game going against Coach Blair.
It is.
Just ask him for some candy before the game, though, because he throws it to the crowd.
He's going to walk over and give it to me anyway. You know, he still sees me as that young 18-year-old player. But Coach Blair, I give him a lot of credit. He found me in that little hole where I live in Pineland, Texas, to have Coach Ballmer to take a look at me to be able to play for the Lady Texas basketball program. But it's always very special to be around Coach Blair and the fun that he brings. And but actually, he begged me to play this game, so I'm playing it. But it's just going to be great exposure for our young ladies.
Best of luck. We'll talk to you in just a second. Joining us now, the head basketball coach in his first year at North Texas, Mike Peterson. Mike, good to have you with us, friend.
Good to be here. Thanks.
So you're coming into a program 11-19 last year, but 10-10 in the Sun Belt. They really came out at the end of the year. What was the first thing you wanted to address when you took over this program?
Well, I thought last year we got better and better as the season went on. You know, I felt like we played pretty good in the Sun Belt when we got into conference. We lost a couple close games, won a couple close games, and in the non-conference schedule, you know, we played at Oklahoma, led for about 39 minutes, went triple overtime at Alabama, had Arizona at our place, and we're up 17 at half, just couldn't quite hold on. We just weren't quite mature enough last year. And so one of the things that we've talked about with this group is just maturing a little bit, you know, and being mature enough to be in those situations and handle them and get over the hump. And so that's been a part of it. But the biggest thing for us this year, frankly, you know, with this being my second year here, and they'd had 3 head coaches in 3 years before I got there, this is the first year any player in our program has had the same college coach in consecutive years. That's a little hard to imagine, you know? So it's the first time they've ever heard the same voice 2 years in a row. And so we're way ahead of where we were a year ago, and we're excited about moving forward and moving into Conference USA. And so that's kind of where we are. But just that continuity for our team has really, really helped.
I think I said first year, second year, obviously. Candace Adams, Cedar Hill High School in Texas, one of the great programs.
Yeah.
She's a top 100 player. How special was it?
Well, I think signing, you know, Candace was the first recruit that committed to us when I got the job. And I think being able to have someone who was nationally recognized kind of in recruiting circles commit to us, I think made a statement about what at least somebody thought, you know what I mean? At least she thought you could come to our place and have a nationally relevant basketball program. And again, those are the kinds of athletes that we are going to recruit. We're going to recruit kids that are nationally recognized, nationally known, kids that can come in and make good plays. I've been really fortunate in my career. I've coached a lot of good players, and I had them play, I've coached men and women. I've had some play in the NBA. I've had some play in the WNBA, all that. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's taught me is I'm a lot better when I have good players. I get a lot smarter when I have good players. And so that's, again, I think, but Candace coming to our place, I think, made a statement, especially in Texas. Hey, here's somebody that everybody knows. Mm-hmm. And she said, this is where I'm going to go. I think it makes a statement about the potential of the program that we can have.
Alexis Hyder, she comes in, 14 points a game, led the team in scoring, but what stood out to me, 110 free throw attempts. Yeah. She's not afraid to take it and draw the contact.
Yeah, and again, that's something that I think you've really got to do. We talk all the time about putting foul pressure on people, and I think in this sport, you've got to be able to put foul pressure on people. You've got to be able to take the ball to the rim, either drive it or make a cut or post somebody, and put a little bit of foul pressure on people. And Lex is very good at that. She's very strong. She's very agile. She finishes good around the rim, and so she does put a lot of foul pressure on folks. And that I think that was a big part of her game a year ago. One of the things I really like about our team this year is we've got a lot of people that can put foul pressure on you this year. Our team's very different. We got 8 kids on our roster right now that have never played a game at North Texas. We had 4 kids redshirt last year. We've got 4 newcomers. And so while I'm excited about the folks we have coming back, I'm also very excited about the new folks in this program. We'll be watching last year's film is not going to help you a whole lot, I wouldn't think.
Laura McCoy, 55 three-pointers last year, solid free throw shooter, didn't go to the line a whole lot. Yeah. But tell me about her game.
Yeah, well, she can really shoot it. It's funny, last year when we had our Basketball Madness event, we have Basketball Madness this Thursday, but last year we had our Basketball Madness event, they kind of teamed the men's team and the women's team up and had 3-point contests, right? Yeah. Well, it ended up tied, and so they picked Laura and then a guy off the men's team, and they shot a couple more, and it was still tied. And the guy on the men's team said, well, let's back up. And I turned to somebody I was sitting next to, and I said, he just lost. The thing you don't want to do with her is back up. Okay, she took a couple of them last year off the half-court logo, and frankly, I'm okay with that. She's a very good three-point shooter. She's got really, really good range. And the thing that Laura does, probably better than any point guard I've ever had, is she's a great communicator. You're talking about the point guard being a coach on the floor. She's a real conduit for us. She does a great job of having a feel for what we want. She does a great job of communicating from me to our players on the floor so that we stay organized, so that we know what we're doing.
One final question, your non-conference schedule. How important is it when you're coming into Conference USA? Obviously, you're in the backyard of Dallas and the Metroplex area. How important is it coming into Conference USA and also your non-conference schedule this year for setting the tone for the entire season? Well,
I think it's really important, and one of the things we will always do is we'll always play good teams. You're talking about Gary with Teresa. We got Gary coming to our place this year. It's the tiebreaker. We've played twice in our lives, and we're 1-1 against one another. So we're going to settle the score in Denton this year. But we've got them coming in. We're at Oklahoma State. We've got SMU Houston. We're always going to play good non-conference teams because my thing is, you got to prepare yourself to go into the conference. And I think this conference is going to be very strong from top to bottom. And if you don't do anything to prepare yourself for January and February, in November and December, you're cheating your team, and we're not going to cheat our team. We're gonna line up, and we're going to play, and we're going to test ourselves. And the only way to really evaluate where you're at is to play good competition. And so we will do that in our non-conference. And then we're very excited about coming to Conference USA. And frankly, we have very high expectations of ourselves in this conference. And we're not in a, well, gosh, it's our first year, let's see how it goes mode. Our expectation for ourselves is very high entering this conference.
You got one first place vote.
Yeah, it was me. You know that, right?
Okay.
I voted us first.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And then we ended up picked 12th, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I do not agree with the majority of folks on this. The beauty of it is we're going to play in January and February. We're going to find out who's right.
There you go. That's what it takes. Coach will be talking to you again in a second. Joining us now, the head coach of Marshall, Matt Daniel. Matt, good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you, Ryan.
You and I sat here last year and we talked about your first year, and you knew it was going to be a struggle.
Sure.
But you talked about building a culture there and building and setting an example for the young ladies that this is what it's going to take to win. Did you accomplish that, you think, last year?
I think we did as far as the culture is concerned. I think that I'm not one to preach about an overnight quick fix in any portion of our program, but I do think that the personality of our team basically changed overnight. North Texas, they've got 8 newcomers. We have 10. It's like oversigning in football.
Yeah, really.
We've added some kids to our roster that I think are going to be a great help for us immediately and for our future. 5
freshmen, 3 junior college players, 2 NCAA transfers. Obviously, you're getting some experience. The bad news is the chemistry. Spending time with each other, getting it on the court. How difficult is that with all these newcomers?
Well, I really think that the fact that the rule changed where we could spend some time with them this summer, I think it really helped us. And it was a little bit scary. I've never had a group gel so quickly together so well that it almost is, it's a little eerie. And if we can maintain that throughout the rigors of a long season, I think it'll benefit us in the long run. And I'm really excited about the personality that walks into the gym every day, not just individually but collectively. And I know you asked Spoon about them taking on the personality of their head coach. I think we have a group that doesn't take themselves too seriously, which is a lot like their head coach. And it's a fun group to be around right now. We're excited about the potential that we have this year. We were picked last, and I paid about as much attention to that as when we won the league at Central Arkansas, and I don't think we were picked to win that league either. So it's really irrelevant to us whether we're picked first. And Middle's got a great program or last like we were picked, and really makes no difference. No, we're just going to tip up and play and see where we fall.
You have 5 starters returning, but with all the influx of new players, some of those 5 may not be starting. How do you deal with that as a coach?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You can't expect to have the results that we had and keep things the same. That's not why I was hired at Marshall. And I've been through that before at a previous program, and we were lucky enough to flip it overnight, winning 6, and then turn around the next year with the youngest team in the country and winning 21. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. Where that falls, I don't know. We're just going to try and do our part. We're just going to try and take care of our team, and I'm going to try and coach my team and see where we fall. When conference play starts and throughout the conference season.
You didn't have anybody average double figures last year. Will that change this season?
I keep telling them we need to shoot it more. That's one of the things. I think we'll be able to play the pace that we want to play at. We have the ability to be long all over the floor. Our point guard, we may go from 5'5", but at the 2 we could go to 6 foot and up across the board, and we could play long at the point guard spot too. So versatility is really important. I think it gives us a chance to play up and down, especially with the rule changes. And I think length is going to be a big factor with the way the officiating is going to be this year. And so I'm excited to see where we actually do fall as opposed to just a poll.
Let's talk about a couple of players or anybody that you want to mention. I remember Dickens last year. She did average double figures in Conference USA games. Erica Woods, she upped her scoring average in Conference USA games. Not only those 2, but who else should we keep an eye on?
Those 2 will be a significant part of what we're doing. We don't have a program full of superstars. I'll never have that. If they become a superstar, then they become that. We run a program where everybody can get rich. We want everybody to be wealthy and healthy, and that's kind of how we recruit. And Leah Scott was a JUCO All-American from Iowa Western. Asia Sherrell's from a junior college in Hutch. She lost 3 games in 2 years. They were 72-3. Then A.J. Johnson is a point guard we got from Northeast Nebraska that played in the national tournament. And so we're excited about those 3 junior college players. But we also, Chelsea Romero chooses us over Florida State, North Carolina State, and doesn't even take visits, chose us over Delaware. And there's just kids in the mix. There are freshmen. We got a couple of local kids that we really like. That's really important to me. We're going to play 18 home games this year. If you look at my last couple of years at Central Arkansas, we were like 31-1 at home. It's important to me whether we're national security or on the recruiting trail that we protect home first, and so it's going to be something that's preached throughout our program for their entire stay.
I want to ask all of you a question, and Coach, we'll start with you to my right. And this is kind of a broad stroke question. I'm asking everybody about it. If you could change one thing about the women's game for the better, what would it be? Now, it could either be on or off the court. Doesn't make any difference.
Post play.
In what respect?
Too aggressive. Every year they have us watch a video, and we don't watch it, we get fined, and then we go in, and then they're, you know, they're relocating them. You know, they catch the basketball before they hit the floor. They're relocating them on the elbow. So I just think post play.
Spoon?
That's big. That's big right there. I think it's accessibility. I think if we have a little more access to our kids on and off the floor, you know, it would be really important to be able to have hands-on with them year-round.
Mike?
Yeah, a little bit with Rick. I mean, I think the biggest thing we've got to do in our sport is we've got to get back to playing basketball. You know, and through the last several years, our game has really changed, and I don't think for the better. It's become so physical. You know, the defenses have overwhelmed the offenses because they've been allowed to be so physical on the ball and off the ball. And, you know, I was a women's assistant basketball coach at the University of Oregon in 1983, so I've been doing this a really long time. But I remember back in those days, our sport was a pretty free-flowing offensive game. People really enjoyed watching it. You know, and the comments you would get was, well, I really like going to the women's game because they pass and they catch and they cut and they shoot and they make shots, okay? You could still guard people, but our game now has gotten so physical. I just think it's very hard to have very much freedom of movement. And again, what they're saying is this year that we're going to go back to enforcing the rules, kind of the way they were designed. And I think that'll be great for our game because that is, to me, that is the great appeal of our game. That's what sets our game apart from maybe the men's game is that it is a skill-driven game. It's a fundamental-driven game, you know, and if we can get back to encouraging that kind of play, I think it would be really, really good for our sport.
Matt?
I'm completely with these guys. I like the accessibility that we've had. I think it allows you to ask a kid about a test that they had in the summer without, you know, bringing them into the principal's office, and you can ask them on the floor how their day's going as opposed to, hey, stop by the office and see me, where that changes their mentality. I think that the game is going to change this year with the physicality and the way that it's going to be officiated. Not that the rules are any different, but the way it's going to be officiated. And, you know, I like the pace. I'm a pace guy. If we play too slow, I sit down because I get bored. So I don't do slowly. So I'd like to get more possessions, which is, I was asking them on the way in about dropping the shot clock. I think dropping the shot clock just gets you more possessions and more of that free-flowing style. And I think it just continues to build.
How about the new 10-second rule, too, now?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, you know, as a player, that's what I played with, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments that are made on sidelines, not just on the floor, but on sidelines in the strategic part of the game, which is something that I take a lot of pride in, and I really try and study. So I'm intrigued by that. With all the things that are supposedly going to be changed, that I think all of us are kind of like, how long is this really going to happen? Right. We'll believe it when we see it, but I mean the way they're preaching it now, it's going to change, and hopefully it's for the better.
You like the 10-second, Mike?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Frankly, on offense, if we mess around back there for 10 seconds, I'm probably going to take the whole team out anyway. So, you know, I mean, in practice, we got a 3-second clock. From the time you get it, you got 3 seconds to get it in the front court on our team. So if we're taking 10, I need new players, you know, so it won't bother us much, I don't think.
Spoon, you like it?
Love it. Advantageous for the defense.
So once again, defense. So I tell you, Coach.
It's going to be a factor. Already I've seen it in practice.
Really?
And we're pretty experienced at the point guards, and already I've seen that take place. We've had a manager clocking everything that's going on, and it's going to be a factor.
Folks, welcome to Conference USA. Look forward to seeing all of you this year. Matt, you got some new people to study now. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back
Thank
more
you.
from Dallas in just a few minutes.